It's recording.
Woo!
Hey, wow, when I talked and then when you talked, it was the same level on the little level thing.
That means we're at the right spot.
Of course, now you're louder. So
Hey.
I have to be louder.
You be louder, I'll be
I
less.
can't be louder. You be less and I'll be louder.
I don't know if I can do this. This is just how I talk.
Okay, you stay at that level
Okay.
and I'll talk like this. Or I'll point this closer to me.
How's it now?
Looks the same.
This is going to be in the podcast.
Yep.
This is going to be awesome.
You're still too loud.
What do you want me to do? You want me to get like 5 feet away?
How's that? I'm blaming you instead of
I know.
taking responsibility for my own self.
I mean, you're the sound guy.
Yeah, I'm not, obviously. All of them different. You know how much? At least $1,000 worth of recording equipment. I've tried different components so far. 3 different recording devices I've tried, and I haven't been able to figure out anything better than a single lapel microphone plugged into an iPad using the basic voice memo tool. That's the best we can come up with.
I'm sure we'll figure it out. What are we doing today?
Let's talk about the Mormon Church,
Uh-oh.
aka the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
Right.
So, first of all, let's establish our authority to speak on this topic.
Oh.
You're first.
Well, I was baptized into the Mormon Church in 2016? 17. Somewhere around there.
Yeah.
And I was baptized and endowed. Or sealed. No, endowed. I didn't get sealed. That was me in a nutshell. Held
Okay.
different positions in the church, and
Yeah. So you've had a couple years experience in the church.
Right.
What are you doing right now with the church?
nothing.
Nothing. Are you? Is your name still on the records?
Yes.
You haven't resigned
Nope.
or been excommunicated yet?
I haven't been excommunicated.
Well,
I'm
guess what?
apostate.
Yes. You've declared apostasy.
Yes.
Excellent. So if, depending on what we talk about here, this can become grounds for your excommunication.
Perfect.
And so, for the record, what is your priesthood office within the church?
I don't know, because the priesthood holder.
Bingo. All right. So, I was born into this church. Well, by that, my parents were members of the church. I was brought up attending the primary, singing the songs of indoctrination, and living a life. I'm 38 now, and about 8 months ago, I started publicly voicing my concerns, and then a couple months after that declared full apostasy, which is, the definition of apostasy is no longer believing in what you once believed in. So it's just a turning away from your previous faith.
Right.
That's it.
Absolutely.
Within the church, though, it does seem to, in that culture, subculture of the Latter-day Saint community, it has a more significant meaning.
Right.
It's very sinful. It's essentially denying the existence of God or Christ to some people. That's
Right.
It's serious. It's a serious thing to declare apostasy. Which, from that perspective, I understand, because if it's true and you deny the truth, well, then that doesn't look good for you. So I had some concerns and questions and researched and decided that my personal belief is that the narrative history of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is founded on lies and deception, and that this deception has been sometimes purposefully and sometimes ignorantly perpetuated. On a local level, I think it's out of sincere belief, but on a church headquarters, worldwide domination perspective, it's purposeful deception. That's my belief. So
I would agree with that.
I have served in various callings as well. I'm a high priest in the Melchizedek priesthood. I have not participated in any kind of capacity, paying tithing, or actively participating in church. Though I go in support of my family, but I have not actively participated, and I've declared my apostasy for about 6 months now.
We have very different situations on that.
Yeah. So you're a new person. You are someone who, as an adult, consciously made the decision.
Right.
I'm going to investigate and affiliate myself with this thing.
Right.
And I'm someone who grew up in it. At 8 years old, made the independent decision to be baptized from their perspective at 8 years old, and then grew up with that from there. And this, I sound bitter because, like you said before, as we discussed talking about this, we are bitter. We are.
Right.
And so that's why I sound that way. But I'm not. So I'm angry and I'm bitter, but I'm not. In some ways, it's So it's not a regretful anger. There's some frustration over things from the past, but it's annoying to decide that you lived based on lies.
Right.
Someone lied to you a whole long time. You lived according to that. That's frustrating. There's no way around that. But I feel like I've had a lot of good experiences, and I learned a lot of great things, and I have a lot of great friends within the congregation, the local congregation.
Right. I would totally agree with that. Like, you know, you do meet a lot of great people no matter what you believe.
Right. Well, because on the local level, it's about, I mean, everyone's come together for the united belief and with a common purpose, and so there's a lot of friendship and service. But because there's so much demand for adherence to the rules, it creates a lot of in-group, out-group, and judgment, unrighteous judgment.
Right.
And those become problematic socially.
Well, yeah. It's about shame. I mean, you
right.
shame the people that aren't behaving the way you want it, and that's how you fix it.
Right. And for the record, I have not resigned my membership because it's easy. My family's still going, so I just leave my. And knowing how the church records work, I'm just leaving our records all together as a unit.
I haven't changed mine. I mean,
I haven't resigned, but at this slightest request from the church on anything, I will. So this does, us voicing opposition to the church publicly does warrant at least an investigation from church authorities. You know, the local, the bishop, and the stake president. Potentially, they don't have to, but they could ask us some questions about what we're doing, what our intent is, are we repentant? To which I am not. I have declared apostasy. I'll stand by that. And so then at that point, it would likely, based on our priesthood ordination, it would likely be, we'd like to have a disciplinary, we'd like to have a council meeting with you. They used to call them disciplinary councils and stuff like that, but I think they're kind of shying away from some of those possibly negative connotated or sounding words. So we'd like to meet with you.
Can we have a talk?
Yeah, we'd like to talk with you. We'd like to get 6 of our friends together and all face you in a room where you're alone and talk to you about your feelings. That's what we want to do.
We don't want to shame you
No.
into, coming back to us. We want you to, we want you to understand that there's something that's going to happen to you.
But we're all going to look sternly at you and ask you serious questions.
And everybody's going to stare at you.
Right.
And you're going to sit there.
Alone. Singled out. No, they'll let you bring someone with you, I think. Bring someone.
That's good. I'd bring a little firecracker.
I'll bring you. No. Well, my plan is if it comes to that, then I'll have a pre-written letter of resignation that I'll go to their meeting and hand them that once they say, well, we think that, I'll say, you can't fire me, I quit. And here's my letter.
You're fired.
Yeah. You're fired as my ecclesiastical leader. So this is us talking. It's a combination of venting frustrations and just sharing our experiences, because truth needs no cover. Truth stands on its own. If you have truth, it demands scrutiny. It demands it. You have to scrutinize truth. You have to look at it at every angle. You have to question it. You have to test it to determine, is this actually truth or is this opinion? And so by not exposing those truths, you have, the Mormon Church, you have my situation.
Right.
So, what do you want to talk about now? Where do we want to get to?
I think we might need to explain a little bit about known Mormon rules and maybe talk about those. Maybe we could talk about
So crash course. All right. So you want me to go back to missionary mode?
Let's crash course. Oh my goodness! I was never a missionary, so please, Elder Brody.
Oh no!
Tell me more.
I should put my name tag on. Get my white shirt and tie. So, all right. So the Church of Jesus Christ Latter-day Saints is a restored church, restored Christian church. Now it doesn't follow the same lines as there's a correlation. There's some group of Christian churches that declare this is Christianity. Anything outside of this, you're not a Christian. And so often people within that framework will deny that the Church of Jesus Christ Latter-day Saints is a Christian church.
Right.
from my personal experience, I find that most people say that because they think it's called the Mormon Church. So let's get back to the Mormon presentation of the history in 30 seconds or less by Paul Brody, which is impossible because I can't explain anything in less than 30 seconds, as evidenced by what I'm doing right now.
Okay, and
using too much words. Okay,
go.
All right, so in the early 1800s, we'll just go there. The 1800s, a man named Joseph Smith claims that he was confused about the various religions at the time. He lived in upstate New York, and he said there was a whole bunch of different denominations, and they were all warring for people's attention. And so he was confused by that, read in the Bible, if you lack wisdom, ask God. He goes out to the woods, prays, is visited, this is the official statement now, is visited by Heavenly Father, God the Father, and Jesus Christ. So there's two people, God the Father and Jesus Christ. They both appear to him as distinct, separate individual beings. And this is what everything's based on within the church. So now we have the identity of God and Jesus, separate beings, not the Trinity. And they speak to Joseph as knowing him, call him by name, say, don't join any of the churches. They draw near to me with their words, but are far from me in their hearts. Don't join them. So Joseph takes that information. He's 14 years old at the time, and he doesn't join the churches. A couple years later, he's praying to know where he stands before God. Now, at that point, it wasn't in his mind to create a church. He doesn't believe he's called as a prophet. He's just had this profound divine experience. Tells people they don't believe him. His family believes him. 3 years later, he's praying to know what he should do, and claims he's visited by the angel Moroni. Again, official statement of the church, the angel Moroni. More on that later. So this character, Moroni, claims to be an ancient prophet, historian, who had a record of a people that used to live in North America, or in the Americas.
Right.
Depends on who you talk to, where it was, central, north, whatever. But that this record was deposited in a hill a couple miles away from Joseph's house. And that Joseph has been selected by God to translate this record and bring forth a book with the fullness of the gospel of Jesus Christ. And so Joseph goes about doing this. It takes a couple years, but he gets these gold plates, like, book page sized plates of gold that are inscribed with this ancient text. So he carries this 200-pound book through the woods, single-armed, as he's fighting off ruffians. 200 pounds of gold. Okay, all right, sorry. I'm deviating from the official story there with some of my... I think this is impossible, but all right, my frustration showing. I can't tell the story very long without putting my own commentary in there.
We better get back to the missionary.
Let's back into it. All right, focus. So Joseph gets these plates. He translates them by the power of God. More on that later. That's the official statement of the church.
We're never getting through this.
No, we're never going to. So he translates this record, publishes the Book of Mormon. Mormon being the name of the prophet who abridged the history of these people over a span of 1,000 years, roughly. Mormon abridged it, so he gets the title credit, called the Book of Mormon. But it's like the Bible, several books from different writers. Publishes as the Book of Mormon. Officially organizes the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. It wasn't officially called that when they incorporated. It was the Church of Christ, I think, or the Church of Jesus Christ, and later on they added of Latter-day Saints to differentiate between the church at the time of Christ's life, his mortal ministry, and modern days. Even though I don't know that Jesus actually there's any record of him saying, "You are the Church of Jesus Christ," but I guess it's inferred. But so they officially organized the church. Joseph Smith is president of the church. He's the prophet of God, just as Moses and Noah and Adam and these folks in the Old Testament were prophets of God. So Joseph Smith, in modern times, is the prophet. And now it's called a restored church because the claim is that the apostles of Jesus Christ, who he ordained, had the authority to act in his name. They had the apostolic power. They were prophets, seers, and revelators. When they were martyred, all of them killed, that authority left. What am I at? 14 minutes?
I don't know.
I told you it wasn't 30 seconds. All right. And so that power is lost. Now, some believe that power was ordained, that Peter passed the authority on to the Bishop of Rome, and he became the Pope, or whatever. That somehow that translated into what we now have as the Pope, so that they have a continued, unbroken line of authority from Jesus Christ through Peter. That's The Catholic Church would be the church that Christ started. That's one approach to this. Or the authority was lost, and Christianity was not found on the earth with authority. So it existed in belief, it existed in structure, but it didn't exist in authority. They were doing the functions, but they didn't have the authority of God. So their baptisms weren't recognized by God, and so forth.
That's what I got told.
Right, and so this is from the Mormon perspective. This is considered the Great Apostasy. So from whatever Peter died, something the 1st century AD until Joseph Smith, there was no priesthood of God on the earth. Well, there was, over the Nephites had it, so they also had the Great Apostasy. Conveniently enough, we don't talk about that so much in the Great Apostasy from within the
I never heard
church
of that.
perspective. Yeah, but well, it makes sense though. If they had priesthood authority to be prophets to write this book, and Jesus gave them apostles, then what happened to their apostolic authority? Died with Moroni. He was the last of the Nephite nation. So apparently, none were left righteous. They were every single one wiped out. No priesthood authority left. Okay, so there's no priesthood authority of God. There's nobody on the earth that has the authority to act in the name of God, which apparently is something we're supposed to have, until Joseph Smith. The priesthood authority is restored to him by first John the Baptist, restores the Aaronic priesthood, the preparatory priesthood, and then Peter, James, and John, resurrected beings, come and restore the Melchizedek priesthood, the higher priesthood, to Joseph Smith and all their cadre. And so they're now the first elders of the church, and he's a prophet of the church, whatever. And so from there, he establishes the church, and the basic tenets being that Jesus Christ is necessary for salvation. He is the Savior of the world, that through faith in his atonement, we can be cleansed of our sins, because we all fall short, we all sin, we all deviate from the path, we're all sinners in the eyes of God. And so the only way that we can return to live with God after we die, because that's part of the plan, is that we came from God's presence, now through mortal experience to be tested and proven. Will we choose God with no knowledge of him, relying on faith? If we do that, if we're successful and we accept Christ and we follow his commandments, then we can return to live with God, with our families for eternity. And so that's basically it. And then some of the social things that people often are aware of is, which gets way more talk than is necessary, but it's big, is what we call the word of wisdom from within the church, which is the Lord's law of health, which the items that really only get focused on are: don't drink alcohol, don't drink coffee or tea, don't smoke or don't use tobacco products.
And drugs.
Well, addictive stimulants was later added in, wasn't part of the original mention, but it's all good.
That's the
that
one
was an
I
amendment.
learned.
Yeah, so no drugs.
There's a lot of amendments, because at first that wasn't even
right.
it.
Right, it was just hot drinks. It wasn't coffee, tea. That was later interpreted, and then with more questions, later interpreted. But that gets more time, more screen time than anything else, I think. When really, it's not really the most important element, but because it's so socially, I don't know. It's just a hot topic.
Something that somebody could pick out, like.
Yeah, it's an
Paul
easy one.
doesn't drink coffee because like he's a Mormon, or
right.
Travis doesn't like
shoot up heroin in his eyeballs because he's a Mormon.
Right.
Right. That's what people say about you.
Yeah, all the time.
All the time. That's what I hear.
Heard it earlier today.
But so that's a big part of it. But then tithing is an important one. So 10% of your income annually to the church. It's a lay clergy. Nobody gets paid. Well, again, Mormon talking point. Nobody gets paid in church unless you hit a certain level, and then you get a yearly stipend,
right.
Which is like twice my annual salary right now, my income. So they're doing okay for their retirement. Okay. For their retirement stipend, they're doing okay.
That's because they want 10% before you can go to the temple.
The church has never told me that. I found that out through my own research, but it's so. Is it accurate? I don't know. I can't prove it because they will not release that information, so I can't prove it. But so anyway, so lay clergy, but locally it's a lay clergy. The bishop, everybody locally, nobody gets paid for their service. It's all volunteer. They don't have a house paid for. They don't get their food paid for. Their bills aren't paid for. They have jobs. They work. They do this service, and that's admirable. They're running a church for free,
right?
And that's great.
Well, I mean.
Well, all right, yeah.
So
to
here's
that.
the flip side of that, though. They're literally paying a church so that they can work in it.
Yes. Okay. Right. Yeah. So from that perspective, yeah, it's
that's a crap deal.
Right. Well,
I want my money back.
If that's how you're getting to heaven, whatever it takes, right?
Right, I guess so, yeah.
If that's reality. But yeah, no, that is, well, yeah, like as a missionary, I was, well, I didn't serve my complete mission. I went home because of depression. Well, no, everybody's going to judge me now. But
no, that really is a shame thing.
It did. Yeah, it is. It was. And
that's like hard to get married after that.
Right. That's why it took me 7 years after. No, that's not why. But yeah, no, that's an issue. But so a mission back in, that was 2004 when I went. So a mission at the time was about $9,000 something. It was $10,000 roughly. So I paid to go out and serve as a missionary.
Right. It's a great scheme.
Oh, it's wonderful.
I mean, if you want to make money, like, we should start a church.
Yeah,
and just charge people to come.
I paid to be able to go and be a recruiter. It'd be like your Army recruiter was paying for instead of getting paid by the Army to be a recruiter, he was paying the Army to allow him to be a recruiter.
Right.
That's what this is. Great.
That's just one thing.
Right.
We got to move on.
Right. So missionary service is a big part of the Mormon Church, but so I guess I don't know. So the focus is like the service and Christ is the big thing, even though we don't talk about it so much. So modern prophets. That's
a huge deal.
That's the deal. That's the thing that separates the church. So the belief that
And
God
temples.
and Jesus and Holy Ghost are not the same individual. They're separate three individuals. The restored priesthood authority. Yeah, temples are big things. The temples are a specially designated building that where you can perform marriages and make sacred covenants, which are promises to obey the laws of consecration, chastity, or I don't remember, obedience to the doctrines.
Yeah, I don't remember
It's
either.
been a
But
while.
you get underwear after that day.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So that's where you wear the garments, which are marked with symbols, which represent things of a Masonic nature, but they say it represents other things. But so the temple is supposed to be the height of spirituality. It's the closest thing to heaven on earth.
They're beautiful.
Yeah, they're great buildings, and so you go through, you make these covenants with God. So it's something really strange that goes on there.
No, it's pretty strange.
It's different. Well, I mean, it's not out of the doctrine is the doctrine. So
Right.
it's not outside of the realm of the doctrine.
No.
But the handshakes that are Freemason handshakes that go on.
Right.
Those to me are weird and I think unnecessary. I don't understand how all right. So so that's enough. I don't want to talk. I want to complain now. So we're going to complain now.
Sweet.
So
That took it long enough.
why does an all-knowing God, all-loving God, unconditionally loving God need me to know a handshake to get into heaven? 4 handshakes. Why do I need to know 4 handshakes that the Freemasons invented to get into heaven?
1300s.
Why do I need to know that? Because the Freemasons actually inherited that from the initial Mason who built the Temple of Solomon. Yeah, okay.
Well, that's what they say.
That's what they say. Maybe it's true. Maybe I'm the idiot.
Maybe it's just
Maybe.
bullshit.
Maybe.
Completely.
Maybe it is. We don't know.
Ooh. We'll find out.
So, alright. Well, so, you talk for some time now. I talk for 10 minutes.
So,
Your turn.
my biggest thing was, like, the temple. Like, you prep for this. You take a class to go there, but they can't tell you anything about it. Like, they can just tell you, yeah, you're going to do some stuff there. And, like, for me, before this, I was like, oh, the church is great. They care about their people. Like, if
Right, so what attracted you? So, don't just say the church was great. What attracted you to it before that?
just like, it felt like a community, like its own little thing that, and everybody kind of seemed to be friends. That was kind of what's awesome there. But really, it was like that one-on-one or two-on-one missionary thing that really works well. And they tell you these things that you've never heard, and they'll tell you again and again and again, and you start like going, well, man, these kids are happy.
Yeah. No, they're not.
What water are they drinking?
They're not happy. They're depressed.
Right.
They're hiding. They're pretending. Okay, that was just me, maybe.
Probably not.
Maybe.
But anyway, and so we got into the church and like running, like we were ready to go.
Yeah. I remember. I was there.
They get all jacked up.
I went to your house with missionaries.
That is true. You screwed me,
I was
pal.
part of the problem.
Completely.
I didn't
You lied
know
to
you.
me. You lied to me on my couch.
I did lie to you on
You
your couch.
lied to me.
I didn't know. That was before I was awake to this reality.
so we go and we take the classes and we get ready to do this. We have no idea what to expect. And it just seems like there's all these great people that go to the church and it's awesome, right? And next thing you know, we're in this little area where you're sit with everybody else wearing the same clothes you are, looking exactly like you are, and you're like, where the hell am I? Where'd this church go? Where'd this individualism go? And it felt wrong and it felt bad. And I look at my wife, she looked at me, she looked a little confused, I was confused, and I was just like, what do we do here? You know, and I was just like, I'll give her a thumbs up because this is probably what we should be doing because this is what we're meant to do. This is what our whole lives are all about, is this temple. And you go and you can ask questions after you get all done. You get into the big room that's supposed to be this heavenly feeling. And I was just sitting there perplexed. Like, how is this the same church? Like, how is this?
Right.
And ever since then, it was just like questioning everything. And we just kind of started dying off after that. Like, it was hard because you can't talk to anybody unless you're inside that room, which should be like a red flag enough.
Right.
Like,
Well, see, right.
It's all because it's all about that control. If you can control that, if you can control how people perceive other people, I mean, we're all just going to start judging each other every time we do something wrong.
Yep.
And that will get everybody in line. That is how you control 15 million people or 16.
Right. Yeah.
Anyway, that was how I kind of fell out.
So it really, you didn't research the history of the church. Was this thing really valid or true?
I had seen I'd seen some angry Mormons, and I was like,
did you see that before you joined, or before you were baptized?
That was like when they started coming up, because I didn't know they were there for me. I was like looking them up, and I saw a bunch of bad press. I saw a bunch of good stuff, and it was just like, I don't know.
So you went with your personal experience, like, these people seem nice. Everybody here is friendly. They're all friends with each other. I'm gonna jump into this.
Right. It was
good.
Awesome.
It was good.
Yeah.
The community element was good for you.
Oh yeah, it's awesome. But that is like a catch-22.
But so it wasn't. There was nothing about the church doctrine that was being taught.
It sounded off. Okay. So the doctrine sounded amazing because most of these churches don't have all the answers or have like a lot of answers. Because my background was pretty much Christian community church background, and it was, nobody knew like what you had to do. Oh, you have to receive Jesus in your heart, and then you have to.
So nobody gave you a 15-point checklist of what that meant to receive Jesus in your heart.
Which I was like, that's awesome. They know how to get into heaven.
Right.
And they know that they say that there's no hell and there's 3 kingdoms and
everybody gets a trophy.
Right, and it's like, here's your participation trophy. This bottom one, it's the crappiest one, but it's better than anything you'll ever see on Earth.
Murderers and Hitlers, but
everybody would be
better
happy.
than Earth. Yeah.
Like, I have
So what you're saying is it's hell, but it's a happy hell. Got it. Sign me up.
They told me that like 6 times because I could not like get that around my head, and I finally was like, well, if God's so loving, why wouldn't He be like, look, you guys are screw-ups, but I love you, so here's a lot of stuff like clicked and made sense. Yeah. And I was like, you know what? I like that. I like the sound of this. I like this forever family thing. That was like the biggest thing for me because I love my family. Yeah. I love the thought of that forever thing.
Right. So the idea there being that with the proper authority of God, as housed in His temples, in the Church of Jesus Christ Latter-day Saints, you can be sealed to your spouse for time and eternity. So this is a marriage, but it's not a marriage for time, like you go to the Justice of the Peace or any church, anybody outside of the temple, and you say, till death do you part. This is not that. This is for eternity. This is the audacity of claiming that God told us, if we tell you you're married forever. He's going to honor that when you die. That's what they're saying.
And you'll get a new name.
Yeah, you'll get a new name that will be the exact same as everybody else who goes to the temple on that random day, but it's unique to you. Because God in His infinite wisdom knew that you would get the right name because you'd happen to go to the temple on that day, whatever.
It's perfect.
Yeah. So when I went through the temple for my endowment, my uncle, who had passed away previously, was that the same day? When did I go? I believe it was the same day, or maybe it was somebody else's ordinance. But so that's the other thing in the temple that they do ordinance work. You do it for yourself living, and then they also do it for deceased ancestors. That's why the church is so. They own. I don't know if they own Ancestry.com now, or they're big partnered with it. They got the Family Search
they're big partners
website
with all of the
so
searches.
huge behind the genealogy stuff. Part of that is the belief that they need to baptize everyone because we all need to be linked together through the sealing ordinance. But so my dad went through the temple proxying for, I think it was his brother, my uncle, that same day that I went through. And so my uncle and I have the same new name. So we're not supposed to divulge it to anybody, but because the way the church works, I know that that's the situation.
Right.
We all have the same new name. So anyone who goes through for their own endowment that day by proxy or for yourself is going to have the same new name. So my uncle and I have the same new name.
So you're just as ununique as you were before.
I guess.
I mean.
So I mean, but it doesn't matter.
That's
See,
just
and
weird.
so me going through all this stuff, like the first time when I went to the temple for the first time for that stuff, the endowment stuff, my bishop told me it's kind of weird, but don't. You know, so he said don't go buy all the clothes right off because some people don't like it. You might not end up going back very often. That was my preparatory. And I go, and he was there, and I was like, that's not so weird. I mean, the clothing I don't understand. I asked him why we wear those hats that we wear, and he's like, it's symbolic of maybe graduation. Looks kind of like a graduation cap. And I'm like, it's a stupid looking graduation. Whatever.
Why wouldn't your bishop know?
Nobody knows because nobody knows because all right. So again, let's go back to this idea that you were saying like it's good for control if you can if you're not. Here's the temple. Go in there. It's the best place on earth. Nothing is better than the temple. It's the highest. You have to follow all the rules to get in. Only the pure and the worthy can enter. So all this stuff, you're already separating and judging everybody. But now if you made it to the temple, so you are the worthy. Now you're in the temple. But you can't talk about it. It's too sacred to talk about outside the temple.
Right.
So you go there and you're uncomfortable. And you can ask questions in the temple, but you can't ask questions anywhere else. So.
And by the way, the room that you go into, it carries sound pretty well, so you can't really ask a private question.
No, you can't.
To anybody.
No, because no one's talking.
Right.
So you can't get in there and go, yeah, this is an awful lot like the Freemasons. Why are we doing the Freemason handshakes in here? If you ask that in there, 30 people are going to be staring at you. Right.
And that's that shame thing.
Right.
It's just like.
Right.
You just want to go along with the flow and be part of the group.
Exactly. And so that's a big social pressure right there.
Oh,
and
yeah.
So if at that point you were to ask a question like that, there's a good chance that they're going to say, why don't you come down, when the temple presidency is going to go, just come down to my office. And now you're back in that, he's sitting in his chair behind the desk and you're on the other side of the desk. And that, as being a counselor, I know, is a power differential.
Oh, yeah.
When I sit behind the desk, it's off-putting to the person on the other side. And so it creates a power differential. So when you go and sit down and you meet with him in that manner, I mean, maybe not. Maybe he's going to sit down on the couch next to you as friends because these are still human beings.
Right.
They just have a strong belief system. And so they're not all, the people are not corrupt. I believe that at the head of it, there is corruption because I can't fathom how they don't recognize the deception. See, so the difference, so your experience, maybe we'll save my experience, we'll do this another one. We're going to keep this in like 6 minutes and shut this off, but maybe we'll do a second part to this.
Mormon part 2? Yeah,
I think we should call it, you know that book, We Were Soldiers Once and Young? We should call it We Were Mormons Once and Young.
We could put down.
Yeah. Yes, even better. So we'll just do part 2. But so let's just focus on your stuff then right now. So your experience, I think is important to point out because you and I are very different in this. We both came to the church in different ways,
right?
And we both left the church in different ways. We both left the church independently. There was no collusion here.
No.
You and I never talked about this until after I think I declared to you that I was apostate or getting there.
When we started this.
It was after we started this? Okay.
Right. Well, you said it before, but I thought you were joking.
When we were talking about doing the podcast, we've been talking about that for a little while.
We've been talking about that for like 8 months.
Yeah, and then so it was like, I don't know, when was the last time you went to church? It must have been 7 or 8 months ago,
7
right?
months ago?
January or something like that?
Yeah.
And so I caught you in the hallway and we're like, let's do this podcast. And you, let's do this podcast. I don't know what we actually said, so I just said that stuff. But
that's pretty much how it went. Almost verbatim.
Yeah, I think it might have been. And so then I said something to you about not being into the church, but you thought I was joking.
Right. I thought you were like just being like yeah.
Goofy.
I thought it was a joke. Like you were just messing around with
me. And then we came in, so we're sitting in my office to do the podcast, and then I went into more detail, and that's when you knew that. So
That's when I let my cat out.
Right, and you told me that you were done. Yeah.
Right.
So.
But I mean, we got done in different ways, and we're in different
Right.
positions. Like,
Yeah.
my whole family is like,
Right.
gone.
Yeah. And so my wife and children are my children are all under. The oldest is 7, and so my wife is still full into it, and we're keeping the kids fully engaged for now. That's the plan. So it's a little awkward being the lone man out in that regard, but and it's tough because I don't want to be like, you have to leave the church. On one hand, I do want that, but that's not fair, so I don't want that. Like, I don't want to dictate how my family believes, but I kind of want them to just believe what I believe, because it would be more convenient,
so much easier,
more comfortable for me.
Right.
Well, and it's just I'd like us all to be on the same page. So it's because of how deep the roots go on this brand of faith. It's really difficult to uproot, to say I don't believe this church anymore. It's difficult to do that without saying. Essentially, you're saying I don't believe this family anymore.
Well, that's what they want you to believe.
Right.
It's like getting divorced.
Right.
You're
Exactly.
divorcing your kids.
Well, essentially, I'm saying I don't believe this anymore. So yeah. So I no longer believe in the sealing ordinance, which now I believe I don't need the sealing ordinance.
Right.
It's not necessary. Who said it was necessary? Joseph Smith? Well, next time we do this, I'll tell you all about
He
Joseph
also
Smith.
said that blacks couldn't hold the priesthood or would never
Well,
hold the
he didn't
priesthood.
say that. Brigham Young said that.
Okay. A prophet said
A
it.
prophet said that. Yeah. So I'll expose Joseph Smith's dirty laundry before next week, or whenever we do this again.
Oh,
and so
next week,
if God doesn't want me to say it, he can kill me between now and then. So if the next episode is Travis alone, everybody go join the Mormon church.
Right. Because...
And if it's me, then quit the Mormon church. No, I'm not tempting God. This is just a fiction of the Romans. So why would I tempt a fiction of the Romans?
This is true.
More on that when I get into my bitterness. But so you and I came about this different ways. You left different ways. So you didn't have a problem with the doctrine.
I threw away like
the
$300
teachings.
worth of alcohol because of that.
So you made some significant changes. In your
Right.
life. You embraced a new belief. You ended old patterns of behavior. You changed a lot of behavior.
Right.
So you got involved. You were going to activities multiple times in a week. You were leading things on Sundays, teaching classes. You were there. So you didn't have a problem with the community of the church. You didn't have a problem with the doctrines of the church, the belief system of the church. But the temple, this high focal point, this thing that was supposed to be the end-all be-all,
Felt wrong.
did not fit what you were learning on
Right.
a week-to-week
It didn't
basis.
fit what they were showing. And
Right.
that's the scary part is when you're already in it, you just want to keep being in it, right? Even
Yeah.
if it's like, oh well, that's a little weird, but you know what, I can go with this.
Right. That's what I did.
And so you get to that point, and you just like, no, this isn't like a, it's weird. This is kind of wrong. Like, why am I doing this? I shouldn't have to do this. I shouldn't be here. I shouldn't be doing this. And it wasn't just like nerves, because I wasn't nervous. I was literally in that mode of like, not fight or flight, but like getting close to like, why am I, like, something's wrong, something's not right.
So some form of dissonance. in
Right.
your life.
And when we're outside of it, we couldn't like ask the people that we went with,
Right.
because you can't talk about it after
Right.
this. So we just like waited till they were gone, and we were like, what the hell just happened?
Yeah.
Like, what was that? Why did we have to go to it? This is nuts.
Well, and so you had to be a member of the church for a year before
Right.
you could do that. So you just had a year of sitting 52 sacrament meetings that you sat through.
Well, let's stay
52
close.
Yeah. So weekly meetings of people getting up and saying, I know that the temple is a place of refuge
Once a month.
given to us from God. Yeah. And
Once a month, bare minimum.
Right. Yeah. Testimony meeting once a month. People get up there and say, I know the temple is blah, 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 and this beautiful thing, and all these things. So now you've got all these people that you look up to in some capacity, or at least look at as friends,
Right.
as mentors,
As a
potentially.
community, I want to be involved
Yeah,
in.
as people you'd like to be connected with.
Right.
As people you respect, and they're all saying, the temple is the best thing we can do. Everything is about getting to the temple. We need to go to the temple more often. Let's be a temple building and a temple attending group. Everything's about the temple. And if you are sitting there going, I don't like the temple. Are you, if I'm in a room with 50 people and they're all like Let's see, what's a crappy movie? I don't know anything. So let's say whatever.
Movie.
When the George Clooney Batman, the best Batman ever was George Clooney, and I'm like, what?
Right.
And everyone's like, yeah, George Clooney Batman was the best Batman ever. Am I really gonna stand up and if I want these people to like me, am I gonna go, yeah, I don't think so. Not even close. I mean, like, nah.
He sadly got his butt kicked by Christian Bale.
It's clearly Christian Bale, Michael Keaton,
Whoa.
Val Kilmer, George Clooney.
Wrong.
No?
Michael
All right.
Keaton will always be the best
Okay, well,
Batman. Don't ever throw that like.
Michael Keaton's a great Batman, but I like Christian Bale because of there's more. There's more. Those movies are just. Michael Keaton's Batman was a great movie.
Right.
It's a classic.
Right.
But exploring Batman. Well, so, all right. So there's a difference because Michael Keaton was Batman and Christian Bale was The Dark Knight. Two different series, two different comic series. So all right, we'll give him that. But
I go for nostalgia.
yeah, well, Michael Keaton. That is a comic book Batman. It's the colors. I remember the colors.
Right.
It's just vivid. It's cinematically well done. Christian Bale's an action movie. Michael Keaton's he's a film.
Right.
Actually, he did too, didn't he?
Yeah.
He did with Danny DeVito. I didn't like that one so much. I think the Penguin scared me at whatever age I was when I watched that.
Danny
A little too
DeVito's a
disturbing to
freaky
me.
looking little bowling ball in that.
It was bad, yeah. And then there's even
Bit
the
somebody's nose.
fish. Yeah, that seems rough.
Yeah.
But so if I'm in a room and people are like, George Clooney's a good Batman, obviously he's not, or Ben Affleck. See, we couldn't even remember him.
Say that.
Couldn't even remember him for the list.
Let's not even
Awful.
go there.
So if someone's
garbage.
saying stuff like that, and I want them to like me, I might go, I don't understand that, but if that's important, I'll give you that.
There's things we'll settle for.
Not the greatest example ever, but maybe there's no example needed. You go to church, everyone talks about the temple being the most important thing ever. You
How
go to the
beautiful
temple,
it is.
how peaceful it is.
Yeah.
All of the answers. If you have any answers, go to the temple. Drive 3 hours into Boston
Or Hartford.
Take 3 or 4 hours to get there. Spend 2 hours in it, and then spend 4 hours driving back through traffic in the middle of the winter in New England, because it's the most peace you can have, and the most expensive peace you'll ever have, because you have to pay 10% of your income to get in. But so when it's talked about as highly as it is, and then you go and you don't like it, you can't really say that out loud. For one, everyone's going to go, whoa, you don't have a testimony of the gospel? You don't love Jesus? But two, they're going to be like,
you're an outcast.
How can you not love it? We all love it. But I think a lot of people are just feeling uncomfortable about it, but they don't say it because that's, because of those things. So there is a great deal of social pressure to put up.
Oh yeah, that's a huge deal. Is the social pressure?
So for me, I didn't like the temple. I never really. I mean, I like it. It's nice. It's peaceful in it, but I never really understood. It didn't make me feel closer to Christ.
It's just because people were quiet there.
And I didn't get
it's
how
pretty peaceful.
Right? Yeah, it's peaceful. Everyone's just peaceful, but everyone's smiling and whispering. But then the prophets are saying, every time I go to the temple, I learn more. And you're like, oh, how could this guy? He's been in the church for 95 years and he's the prophet. How could he? He's the prophet of God, so he's the personal spokesman for God. How can he possibly learn more things by going to the temple when it says a same script? There's nothing new. There's nothing unique about it. It's a script. How can you learn something new? Well, I go wherever the symbolism, the Spirit teaches me. Bull. That's garbage. And because I tried for a long time. I went to the temple, and I nothing ever. And I tried. I was doing what I was supposed to be doing, and nothing. So I'm just broken. God doesn't love me. God forgot my name. It's a good song by Bayside. Bayside's got a lot of really great religiously influenced songs that I feel like Anthony's been on a similar plight to what I've been on at times. Got some good songs. But what's the name of that song? It's off that album that they did recently.
Oh yeah, that one.
I don't remember. Can't remember. It's a good song. But anyway, we're talking about. Oh yeah, so you go to the temple and they say these answers that you get by going and you don't. I lost my train of thought. What was I talking about? Something about answers. And you go and learn new things. And I don't think you actually learn anything new. But Emperor's New Clothes essentially is what it is.
Sick is there.
Sick is a fantastic song. That's not the one I'm talking about.
Oh, 2 letters. Is there 2016?
Yeah, 2 letters. The second track off of that. Quick. Dead air. No one's talking. Where's my phone? It's over there. phone's across the room. It's charging.
Yeah, I don't have anything that just goes, hey, what's the songs?
Oh. It doesn't matter. I'll tell you after we're done here. But
That'll be perfect.
I wish I had my thought that I was making a thought and I got so lost in it, but I wanted to share it. Probably because I'm an apostate and I no longer have the gift of the Holy Ghost to guide my thoughts.
Oh, that's
I'm
probably it.
being so blasphemous that the Holy Spirit left the room, because that would make sense for
You're in the
God.
presence of very unholy spirit.
Right. We've invited in the spirit of contention, and so I've contentiously forgot my song I was thinking of. Whatever. So, yeah. So your personal experience in the temple was off-putting, and you decided
Way
done
more
with
than
this.
off-putting.
Yes. Okay. Put it lightly. So me was more. Well, so that was a part of that. That was what got me started, and I'll just give you that, and then go into the more detail in another one of these. But so it was last November. So now it's August. Last November, I was looking up something about the Book of Mormon, and I'd been questioning or not really participating for a while at that point, but I was looking something up, and YouTube suggested a video called "Top 10 Problems with Mormonism Explained." Now, in the past, I would have just completely said, "Nope, not going to go there because that's anti-Mormon stuff, and I'm not even going to look at it because it's just Satan." But I watched it. I guess I was curious about Satan, so I clicked on that video link, and it was really well done. It was respectful. It was here's the issue. Here's what the Mormons say. Here's what the non-Mormons say about this topic, and it went through 10 points, and it was great. And some things in there I wasn't familiar with, so I researched further. But one of the things it talked about, it showed the similarities, the exactness between certain elements of the temple ordinances and the Freemason, or like the temple handshake stuff and the Freemasons.
Right.
And I said, nope, no good, because I had been researching. I'm into conspiracy stuff, as you may know. And
what
so
do you?
So I had been in my researching of those things. I saw how much Freemason, like all of the conspiracy behind Freemason. I'm like, why would they be so heavily involved? Why would the church be so heavily Masonically influenced? And so that started me asking questions. And so I talked to some people about that stuff, and that's what got me going. But so this thing that was supposed to be the end all be all, kind of what for you it shut it down, and for me it kind of got me started on it. But that wasn't enough, because I never really liked the temple. I went. Never really cared for it. Elements of it I liked, but I didn't like traveling to get there. All of that was bothersome to me. And so, you think if this thing is bringing me close to God, wouldn't that outweigh my distaste for driving 3 hours? But it didn't. It never did. So, I don't know. That was frustrating. But then it became, for me, I started researching the history, and there has been some information released in the last couple of years from the church that shed some light on some things that previously, had you talked about those same topics that now the church admits, you would have potentially been facing excommunication 30, 40 years ago, or been labeled reading anti-Mormon literature. Now you can read that same stuff from LDS.org in what is called the Gospel Topics Essays. Read those essays, and that will change your mind. But so that was where it started. So when I was talking to the bishop about it and telling him that I'm done with this stuff, and I'm telling him all these things that I've read that it really didn't sit well with me, and he said, "Where are you getting this information from?" I said, "LDS.org," which was the official website of the church until their recent name changed. Now it's come under Christ.org or something like that. But if you still type in LDS.org, it'll take you there. Yeah, they changed, because with the whole thing with now we're no longer Mormons. It's the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints all around. So they changed Mormon.org. And all the websites, no longer LDS.org, no longer Mormon.org, they changed them all. So,
how are people supposed to find them?
The search engine will forward you to it.
Oh, okay.
But it's all
just
branding.
for people who want to look.
Yeah, it's all branding. See, that's unsettling for me, and that part of it too. It's just like, if this was the fullness of the gospel since Joseph Smith, why is there still fullness being revealed? If all it was, well, that's the article of faith for that. We believe all that God has revealed, all that He now reveals, and all that he will yet reveal many great important things. So I guess they got that caveat in there, that they didn't close the door on revelation, even though they've been saying this to the fullness for a long time. It isn't. But
well,
we'll get into
because
that.
it keeps changing for every political movement that happens.
Right. So let's talk about that, and let's do a two-part on this thing.
Yeah, we're gonna
wrap
have
this
to.
up because it's long. But yeah, there's so much we could do. This could be the whole. It
be
could
like
be
a
just
4-hour.
saying things about Mormons for the and we could have podcast topic for the rest of our lives. But I don't think we want to pigeonhole ourselves like that.
Right.
But
although it would be fun.
We will for a few weeks anyway. So, all right. Paul and Travis out, right?
Juices.
That's it. Now let's open this thing and turn this. Stop it. Okay, 49 minutes done.